Good morning, Limerick. It's Dr. Joseph Baker from the Limerick Chiropractic Center, and we're going to be talking today about morning routines. You know, a lot of times people think, oh, you know what, that just doesn't apply to me. You know, I don't have diabetes, I don't have low back pain, I don't have carpal tunnel syndrome. Yeah, I know people who have all of those type of different things, but I don't got those. Well, I'm pretty sure everybody out there goes through this same part of their day, their morning. And whether it's happening at 4 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, maybe it's happening at 3 o'clock in the afternoon if you're a third work shifter, I don't know. But what I know is we all go through that process of waking our bodies up and getting moving. So tonight, I realize there's nobody out there that can't benefit from hearing this information. And really, the question is going to be more so of what are you going to take away from this conversation? Because when we all reflect on how we get our day started, how we start moving through the course of the next day of ours, we all have to ask ourselves, am I really doing the best job possible to set myself up for success? Now, listen, if you can't say 100% absolutely yes, then this workshop is for you. In fact, I want to hear from you of what your takeaway is. What's that thing that you're going to work on to help improve yourself? Because today's workshop has absolutely nothing to do with anybody but you. Now, you might choose to share this workshop with others, which I would recommend, and is part of all of your care, to share the truth with others. But you know what? Here's the thing. We're going to be selfish. It's all going to start with you. Because the influence that a good, consistent morning routine can have is extremely important for each and every one of us. Now, if you question, okay, so really, is it that important? Well, you tell me. If you miss your morning cup of coffee, how does the next couple hours go for you? You know, if Junior decides to spill his breakfast cereal in your lap, how does the rest of the day go? If you don't get that really great restful night's sleep, do you just sort of slide into the day, or are there sort of like bumps in the road that end up happening? Well, I already know the answer to all those questions. None of it is really good. So let's you and I talk about some of the stuff that we can control and that we can help ourselves with so that we can set ourselves up for success. Because you know what? Here are some of those benefits. Some of the things that I recognize, maybe you don't recognize, but you know what? These are some of those things that come from having that great morning routine and lessening the stressors that our body goes through, that we deal with not only physically, but mentally and emotionally. You know, we get to have that improved productivity in relationships. We get the opportunity of being able to stay focused on things. In fact, we talked about this in our breakfast workshop. We talked about the benefits of feeding and fueling the body properly. We're going to touch on that tonight. But I want you to go back to some of those previous workshops. In fact, we're going to talk about a topic here in a little bit that we spent a whole workshop just on the one slide. And you'll see it coming up. I'll refer to it in a moment. Helps us become more flexible. See, we know that these morning routines are so important. But a lot of you don't know all of the different things that they happen to include. So we're going to touch on it. And there's probably one or two of these that maybe you're not doing well, or maybe don't exist in your life at all, that you want to consider actually starting to incorporate. Because it creates a rhythm. Life is a giant rhythm. Anybody who debates that, all they have to do is just stand there. Stand there and watch the sunrise. Watch the sunset. Go down to the beach and see those waves coming in and out, constantly going in and out. Oh, I'm sorry. Those are external things. maybe we should talk about, that lub-dub, lub-dub, lub-dub. Your heartbeat. The rhythm of your heartbeat. The fact that you're constantly breathing in and out. The fact that muscles are constantly relaxing and contracting. See, we sort of forget. Our body is designed to be in rhythm. When we take it out of rhythm, bad things happen. This isn't a me conversation. You could look towards the actuarials. Those guys who decide, how much does it cost to insure your life? Well, when your body's out of rhythm with nature, like people who work third shift jobs, well, unfortunately, their life expectancy is 30% less. And the actuarials recognize it, and they recognize the fact that it's going to take more to insure you because you're going to die sooner as opposed to living out that longer life. We can get very technical in this conversation, but I want you to recognize that these answers, we don't have to complicate them. We recognize that when we look to nature, we look to our body, we look to the outcomes that our body demonstrates, it tells us how important rhythm happens to be. Having that proper rhythm is absolutely essential. In fact, one of the things that I would encourage you to stop doing, because most people, in fact, shame on me, I've been in that same position. I hit the snooze. Wake up, hit the snooze. It's like, not a big deal. Listen, it's going to ring again in 5 minutes. It's going to ring again in 5 minutes. Oh yeah, by the way, it's going to ring again in another 5 minutes. See, but the problem is that what this does to your body is how it affects the sleep centers in your brain. And how it causes you to experience this state of lethargicness, this state of drowsiness that lingers longer and longer into your day than it's supposed to. See, the amazing thing is that when we don't hit snooze and we break from that fast, we break from that sleep pattern, our body actually goes into ramping up and accelerating all the internal functions. See, the amazing thing is that when we put a stop to it, when we go back to sleep, our body sort of doesn't know what to do next. Well, it takes time to spin up after we've shut the body down. And hence some of the conversations that come next. So maybe your big takeaway from the conversation tonight is don't hit snooze. Stop snoozing. Because it's not helping the health of your body. It's not helping you with a good, healthy routine. We want to stretch. Hey, listen, just like that word break fast, we're breaking from a fast. Well, listen, when we get up, let's not forget, not only do we need to kickstart our digestive system, we need to kickstart our muscles, the tendons, the ligaments in our body. That old adage, if you don't use it, you lose it. Well, let me tell you, that's what happens when you sleep. Everything starts to shrink up. Everything, it starts to tighten just a little bit. That's why first thing in the morning you can wake up, and if you just hop right out of bed, you don't get up the way we've trained you to roll to your side, drop your feet down, use your elbow and your hand to help push you up, protect that spine of yours. Well, let me tell you, if you just simply hop up, none of those muscles are prepared. So you spend that next 30 seconds just straining and stretching to actually stand up the way you're supposed to. Some of you have experienced it. You don't need to be in bed. Some of you have sat in a chair for far too long, and you've experienced how that tightness ends up happening, and you have to stretch all those muscles out in order to help your body start to move again. Stretching before you get out of bed is absolutely essential for preparing the tissues for what's coming next. And listen, we'll talk about exercise in just a minute, but before we get to exercise, there's something else that we need to do for our body. because it's been 6, 7, 8 hours since we've actually hydrated at all. We are dehydrated when we first get up in the morning. Our body requires hydration. Now, I'm going to tell you, you going to the sink and chugging a glass of water has a more positive effect for your system than you could possibly imagine. Many of us just think, well, it's going to help my skin. It's going to make sure it stays, nice and moist. It's not going to be dry, Well, no, it does a lot more than that. It helps to stimulate your digestive system. It helps to make sure that things start to move, start to get unstuck from the night before. It also helps to cleanse or clear out the kidneys and get rid of some of those toxins that are sitting in there. We need to do our part to help the different systems of the body work better. And something as simple as drinking water, it doesn't cost us anything. We go to the tap, we turn it on, guess what? It's there. We drink that glass of water and we move on to that very next thing. The remarkable thing, most of us miss this critical step. We miss this critical step, and then because we've missed this critical step, we've started this habit of not consuming enough water throughout the course of our day. I love talking about this. That first morning sun. For me, this is one of the most important times of the day. I love watching that sun rise. It is absolutely wonderful. Because with that sunrise comes some very powerful energy that gets pushed towards our body. We get to have that morning exposure to that sunlight. That vitamin D production is kicked up, and it starts because of it. The amazing thing is that, many of us, we miss this because we're busy people. And I fully admit, I know I miss it myself. And in turn, not being able to be outside at that hour of the day means that I don't get that great morning sun. Now, yes, we can substitute. We can use a happy light in order to stimulate that vitamin D production. And if, in fact, you're going to be utilizing that, guess what? You need to make sure that you're getting that exposure from the time that you get up to somewhere around noontime. We don't want to be utilizing that particular product after 12 o'clock because it does affect our circadian rhythm. And again, if you want more information, you can refer back to some of our past workshops that we spoke specifically about the benefits of that happy light, the benefits of vitamin D production. How not only does it benefit our mind, gives us that clarity, it also helps with that positive mental attitude. But for many of us, it helps with our muscles, the bone construction. There are so many numerous positive effects, even your immune system. And since, listen, each and every one of us have an immune system, I recognize we all want to make sure that we're boosting it so that it's protecting us as much as possible. This is one of those great morning routines that you're capable of instilling where you're just sitting out back, if you have that moment, and exposing yourself to that first morning sun. We got to move. Move it, move it. I love this. Because in the end, it's one of those things where we have that opportunity of stimulating a great big organ in our body. It produces and affects hormones. Many of you may not have known that exercise is one of those things that will stimulate the hormones in your body. Well, let me tell you, no better time than first thing in the morning to get out there and do your walk. Get out there and do your exercise. You've just spent just a few moments before you get out of bed stretching in order to help to make sure that you're prepared. Guess what? You've just hydrated to make sure that the muscles are bathed. Now we get to go ahead and we get to expand. And let's not forget We have to spend energy in order to get more energy. But the benefit is exponential for you and I. Creates that hormones. It actually improves our sleep pattern. The amazing thing is we're setting ourselves up for success later on in the day. You start with that end in mind. And I love the fact that, you know what? Certainly, it is one of those things that once we do this, it kicks our metabolism up. We want to make sure that we're burning off as many calories naturally throughout the course of the day. And if we stimulate the system, it's going to do the hard work for us. And that's what we want to do. Now, that morning pause. We've done a lot of different things. We've stretched, we've hydrated, we've moved our bodies, we got exposed to some sunlight. That's wonderful. Now it's time to feed our mind. This is what's called the gas drill. Gratitudes, actions, and services. For many of us, we just don't spend enough time thinking about all of the things that we should be grateful for. And gratitude, let me tell you, that is one of those things that stimulates us mentally far beyond what most of us can even comprehend. Those actions, we get to devise, what am I going to plan for throughout the course of my day? Let me set forth with a purpose to what's going to happen next, so I have that clarity of what's the next most right thing that I need to do. And then that final thing of service. Having that opportunity of planting the seed within our own self, within our own mind and our own heart, of being in service to others. Recognizing that, hey, listen, we're not just here for ourselves. We're here to uplift our fellow man. And in turn, maybe it's that random act of kindness, where you just find somebody to do something generous for. Maybe it's that intentional act of kindness, where you just decide, listen, I want to take care of this for somebody else. See, whatever it might be, regardless of how big or how small, being in service to others does more than we could possibly imagine. There's a quote. It goes, you never know how far-reaching something that you're going to say or do today is going to affect the lives of millions tomorrow. And I believe that to be true. I got to hear constantly from other doctors how they changed or they were provoked to do one thing differently and how it helped somebody else. And how that somebody else got to pay it forward. We don't know where it's going to go. But what we do know is that we get that positive effect of being in service to others. Finally, let's set ourselves up for success. We need to make sure that we keep these changes small. We keep working on them. It takes 21 days to start a new habit. Listen, if it was simple and easy, everybody would do it. That's not the case. It takes perseverance in order to set up these habits so that they become that new routine for ours. In fact, they become our new morning routine. Oh, by the way, if we really think it that easy, let's think about that 3-year-old. Because there's a 3-year-old inside of each and every one of us. That 3-year-old, if you change one little thing in their daily habit, their world comes to an end. If they don't get their nap in the afternoon, guess what happens? The rest of the day is not going to go well for anybody else around them. You and I have that 3-year-old inside of us. We need to give our body grace. We need to give us grace as we create these changes. Yes, change comes with friction. It comes with resistance. And we have to recognize it. So by giving ourselves grace and recognizing, okay, so I didn't hit it at 100% today, guess what? I'm going to do better tomorrow. And that's what we were going to keep on striving for. just 1% better. Now listen, I told you. This applies to each and every one of us. We're all going to wake up from sleep. We all need to have that morning routine. And I'm going to ask you, make sure that you're doing your part in doing what you're supposed to do, not just for yourself, setting yourself up for success, but sharing these truths with others. Yeah, you might have listened to this and you might have thought, hey, listen, all of that sounds so simple, so easy. But we all know somebody. They're out there, they struggle. Maybe they struggle with their sleep pattern. Maybe you just know they're not a morning person. Maybe you notice that, hey, listen, their day never seems to go real smoothly. See, one of the things I recognize in sharing this information is we get the opportunity of helping others. This applies to each and every one of us. This applies to each and every person that we actually know. So as always, I'm going to ask you to do your part. Make sure that you're sharing this information in your Facebook or your friends group. Make sure that you leave me a comment on what's that thing that you're going to improve. Maybe it was a thing that, quite honestly, you just didn't know. Or maybe you recognize, I just simply need to do this part better. But also, hit that like button. As you hit that like button, yes, Facebook shares this, they produce it, and they push it out to more and more places. More and more places, more and more people, they need to hear these simple truths so that they're able to get out of their way and remove some of those stresses that they're constantly dealing with. I'm Dr. Joseph Baker from the Limerick Chiropractic Center.